What's going on, guys? In this episode, I'm going to be talking to the mirror principle and how you can use it to find your ideal partner. So if you're interested, if you've heard about the mirror principle and you don't know really how to apply it, if it doesn't really make any sense to you, keep watching and hopefully this video will give you more insightfulness and more awareness around what the mirror principle is and how you can apply it. Today we're going to be going through all of this. We're going to be going through the introduction, my experience of using the mirror principle. We're going to be going through the mirror principle and how it applies to dating, common roadblocks, and also applying the actual method and how you can go about starting to apply it. So, the mirror principle. Your inner world is creating your outer world, and your external world is a reflection of your internal world. This is the basic premise of the mirror principle. And I should also make you aware, just in case you're wondering, I do have a laptop. The slides should be appearing somewhere here. So yeah, hopefully the slides are beneficial. If they are, make sure you let me know so I can include them future on. But yeah, getting back to the mirror principle. Essentially, the idea of the mirror principle is fairly straightforward. Your internal perspective, your internal world, so your belief, your thoughts, your perspective on life dictates how you see life. So, for example, if you're someone who is negative, the world may seem more negative towards you, and you may experience more negative things in the world. This is the basic premise of the mirror principle. And yes, life is complex, dating is complex, all of these things are complex, but it's a very simple method and very simple principle. And actually, once you start to really become more aware of it, you'll start to see that actually it's very true. And the more you can start changing your internal reflection, so your internal world perspective, how you see life, your inner beliefs, your behaviors that you're not aware of, all of these things which I'll be going on about in a minute. The more you can become more aware of it, the better it's going to be for you to really attract the things that you want in your life. So the more you can change your internal view of life, the more the external view, the external world, your reality, your experiences will become more better. And what some people do, or what most people do, is you start taking action towards those goals, and you never really look within yourself to really understand why you're doing X, Y, Z. You never really look inside yourself to look at your own experiences, your beliefs, your thoughts, all of these things. And therefore, when you go about life, yes, taking action will get you to certain results and you can get successful. For some of you, you'll be running in cycles. You'll be getting the same result over and over again, even though you've implemented hundreds of strategies. And the reason for this is you still haven't looked within yourself to really understand in depth what's holding you back. What's holding you back in terms of your beliefs, your thoughts, your perspective on life. So, my experience, although I didn't apply the mirror principle straight away and I only came across it afterwards, as I look back to how I found my current wife, I realized that actually I did use the mirror principle. So, the way I use the mirror principle is simple. For a long time, I was going around dating and I was trying to get better and more confidence in dating, talking to women, and just actually getting someone to like me. Because for a long time, although there were people that were interested, I kept running around in cycles. I would find someone and I'll be like, oh, are they right for me? Maybe I can get better. I was always overthinking. I was never really stepping forward and taking action. I was always in my head. I never felt I was good enough. And even when I did start dating multiple women, as I read more books, all of these things, and implemented what I'd learned, what I found is I was running in cycles. I still had the same internal feeling of not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough. I found it hard to be with the women I was going out with just because I didn't accept myself fully, and I was looking externally into them to really accept me and build my confidence up, but that still wasn't working. And although there was success, although I did build confidence, I just kept running in circles, and there was a point where I was like, enough is enough. There has to be a change. Like, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. Yes, I was getting results, but I wasn't truly happy. I knew there was something more out there that I had to do internally to change my own beliefs and my thoughts. And that's when I started to dive deeper. And on that journey, what I started to realize was subconsciously started to realize was there were beliefs that I weren't aware of, such as not feeling good enough, feeling stupid, feeling like I'll get rejected, and not really fully committing into relationships because I was scared, one, either the person will reject me, or they would make fun of me, or they'd think I'd not be good enough. And therefore, in some relationships that happened, I was rejected, or I was, told, they didn't want to go out with me again, which is fine. But equally, there were other relationships which were going well, which I sabotaged because I was like, what's the point? This person's going to reject me anyway. Let me not try. So as you can see, this was the internal thought process I was going on in my head, in my thought process, in my subconscious awareness. And therefore, my external world kind of created the circumstances where actually I wasn't successful. People did look down on me. I did feel not good enough. And although that wasn't always the case, because I had that external perception of people viewing me like that, I then didn't get the results I wanted. So it was only when I started to dive deeper and started peeling away these thought processes, started creating more awareness around them, and started to learn how to unattach from these old programs, thoughts, beliefs, wounds, all of these things. That's when I started to get results. And in fact, I remember I was going through a process, and a key thing that I learned, or a key memory that I kind of revisited, and I was able to really delved deep into the feeling of, and deep into the kind of essence of why that belief was formed, was a feeling around feeling not good enough, and feeling like actually I wasn't ever going to find someone who looked at me and loved me, all of these things. When I was able to delve deeper into that, really embrace that feeling, really accept that feeling, and realize that actually this feeling and this thought process and this belief was formed when I was younger, and it doesn't have to dictate my life. When I was able to understand this at a core level, inside my body, in my head, everywhere, I was able to then step forward and get the results I wanted. And what this led me to was my current wife, and it felt so effortless. The more I peeled away these old thought processes, these old beliefs, it felt more effortless, and it made it easier for me to step forward and take action, the same action I was taking before, but a lot more easier to take the action. And actually, I tried less. I actually stepped back and I was enjoying life more. I was less needy. All of these things happened when I was able to change my internal view process. All of these things happened when I was able to step back from taking action and trying to change the external world in front of me, and start changing my internal thoughts and process and my own internal world. So the mirror principle, let's delve deeper into it. At its essence, all it really is that your internal world is affecting your external world. And therefore, when you change your internal world, which is your thoughts, your beliefs, all of these things, you're able to change your external world. And this then leads us to the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And you've probably seen this image elsewhere before. The conscious mind, the top of the iceberg, and then the actual subconscious mind below the iceberg. And the subconscious mind is basically your internal thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, all these things that you formed when you were younger and throughout life that you aren't aware of. So sometimes we form beliefs and we put it into the back of our head, and we carry on with our lives. We're like, yeah, that happened, it is what it is. But actually, in that moment where something traumatic or something simple may have happened, you developed a perception or a belief. And sometimes, especially nowadays, it's probably from watching social media. You watch social media, you have the same thing driven into your head over and over again, and it dictates your life. And before you know it, you're living out your life, you're regurgitating what you say, and you don't know where it came from, but it's a core memory, it's a core belief, and actually, although it may sound beneficial, it's actually holding you back. And this is where you really have to dive deeper into your internal world and your subconscious mind, and start to really become more aware of these thoughts and these beliefs. There are three main principles that I want you to take away. There's a lot more I can go into, but the three main things I want you to realize is the subconscious mind accepts everything you tell it as true. The subconscious mind learns by repetition, and the subconscious mind is highly responsive to imagery and emotions. So like I said, you might be watching social media, TV as you're growing up, you see the same thing shown to you over and over again. A lot of times you're shown information that isn't necessarily true, information that necessarily doesn't have to direct your life, but you choose it to direct your life because you take it in, and before you know it, you're regurgitating it. It's a core belief, and when that belief is formed, especially if that belief isn't true, it's a lot more harder for you to not believe into it, if that makes sense. So when you form a belief, you carry on with life and experiences happen, and sometimes that belief that you're believing, or most often that belief you're believing, happens in real life, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is true because it happened to me. This is definitely true. You know, that girl rejected me, so it must be true that all girls with money are rude, obnoxious, and they will reject me in the future. You know, all these beliefs that aren't true, you then start to internalize. And so it's really important to understand what you're allowing and letting into your mind. And this is really important. Everything you see there is really important, because when you start to change your internal world so that you can change the external mirror that you're reflecting, it's important that you really delve deep into the thoughts and the behaviors that you're doing, and only start promoting behaviors and beliefs that are actually going to be beneficial for you. At its core, the mirror principle, it's your perception, which is basically attitudes, behaviors, and beliefs. And then this affects the reflection. This is why a lot of people believe in themselves so much, and sometimes it seems like this guy is too obnoxious, too arrogant, and in the end they get the things they want. And this doesn't mean you have to be arrogant, it doesn't mean you have to be obnoxious, rude, all of these things. But equally, these people have a vision and they go for it. They believe in it wholeheartedly. And if you're not aware of these beliefs or your thoughts, you're going to be running in cycles over and over and over again. If you go back to that slide, you'll see the initial picture, which is a more narrow mind. And when you're able to open your mind, that circle gets bigger. But if you're not able to be aware of that, if you're not able to really become aware of those beliefs, you'll be running around in cycles. This is why so many people who don't feel not good enough, don't feel worthy, although on the external they may feel confident, they may speak highly of themselves, they may communicate effectively, they may tick all the boxes, money, fame, amazing job, all of these things, but they struggle to get into a relationship. They struggle to find someone who's going to accept them fully and who's going to be in a loving relationship with them. And often the reason is not that they become so successful, but because of their own internal beliefs that's holding them back. Dating, it's complex, it's difficult. So many people out there are giving you information now, and even I'm giving you information on dating, what to do, what not to do, and it's going to get complicated. And the truth is, when you go online, there is information overload. Everyone has their own perspective, everyone has something to tell you. And until you step forward and start taking action and start looking at your own beliefs, looking at what belief you want to hold, what kind of values you want to hold, until you start looking at that, other people are essentially going to dictate your relationship, your life, and where you go. And you don't want that. You're a different person to everyone else. I'm a different person. The things I want is not what necessarily other people want. So it's up to you to really identify at the core of what do you really want. Because otherwise you're going to be dictated by other people. So again, like I said, you're going to be running around in cycles until you really get to the core of what do you really want. If you're scared of rejection and don't address this, you're going to be running around in circles where you're going to be avoiding getting into relationships, or people are going to actually reject you because you're not being authentic or you're not really showing up fully. And so it's really important you dive deeper into your internal world and start peeling away and understanding what's actually holding you back. You want to be in a relationship, you can picture it, you can see it. At the core you want it, in your heart you want it, but equally there's something stopping you. There's some sort of belief, thoughts, behavior that's stopping you. What is it? And the other caveat to this is, yes, you can go about and get into relationships and you can play around, you can do all these things and you can just stumble into a relationship. It's fantasies that everyone wants, especially this day and age where everyone's on social media, on apps. It'll be nice to just stumble in, meet someone through a friend. The chemistry just blossoms and it's so easy. And yes, we'd all love that. But if it's not working for you, if you've been trying that, if you've been fantasizing, imagining, visioning, all of that, and it's still not happening, it might be time for a change. And the mirror principle works best, especially when it comes to dating, when you can step back and really understand what you need without the relationship. So by yourself, to feel loved, to feel accepted, to feel respected, to feel worthy. Once you start building these things internally from yourself, when you start understanding this internally, when you start understanding this from a deep down perspective where you know that you don't need a partner because these feelings are with you. You know how to feel those feelings. You know how to be aware of those feelings within yourself and what you need to get those feelings internally rather than externally. When you start to understand this process, when you start to go on this journey and you start to really delve deeper into these emotions, what you'll find is it's a lot more easier to understand the mirror principle when bringing your ideal partner. But often what you'll find is if you don't do this, you're going to go into a relationship, and yes, you might have the perfect relationship where the other person helps you, guides you, and if that's what you want, and if that's what you envision, especially in this mirror principle, fantastic, it can work for you. But equally, you're going to stumble across difficulties where you may be feeling worthless. You're going to come across feelings of inadequacy, not feeling good enough, core feelings that you felt in the past. But if you don't address it, or you don't know how to address it, it's going to spiral out of control, especially if your partner doesn't know. The last thing your partner wants is you to go and project everything onto them. And if they don't know how to process those feelings, or if you don't want to listen to them, all of a sudden this starts turning into arguments, fights, all of these things. And all of a sudden that perfect relationship that you stumbled across and that could have been perfect isn't perfect anymore. So it's really important that you understand that you have to feel those feelings of what it feels to be accepted, respected, loved, without the external things. And it's okay if you don't understand it fully, but at least on that journey, as you start to understand it, as you start to work on yourself, as you start to work on your thoughts and your beliefs, you'll find it's a lot more easier to find someone who's more ideal for you in terms of forming a relationship, dating, all of these things. We're going to go into common roadblocks, but essentially redirect your focus to the goal. What do you want? How do you want to feel in the relationship? How do you want the other person to feel? What is an ideal relationship for you? Once you start to focus on these goals, you then take full-on responsibilities and you start peeling away from those old beliefs and those old thought processes. And yes, they will reappear. Yes, they will come up. But if you're focused on the forward end goal, it's a lot more easier to then step away and realize how you can unlearn those old beliefs, unlearn those old patterns and behaviors, all of those things. And the other thing is move away from blaming others and victimizing yourself. Because the more you do this, the more you start to victimize yourself, blame yourself, all of these things, you then put the power into the other person's hand. And all of a sudden, this relationship isn't as great. This dating process isn't as great because you're needy, you aren't coming across authentic, you're really not in your truest, highest, positive self. And although it's important that the other person experiences your negative self, yes, if you're thinking that, it's also important that you stay positive, because if you're constantly negative, that relationship isn't going to work in the long term. But these are just common roadblocks. I'm just going to read them out from my laptop. And as I'm reading them out, really tune into whether or not they resonate with you, whether or not actually this is something that you've been doing in your dating life, in your relationships, or whatever you're doing. You realize that this is something that's stopping you actually from stepping forward. So, overthinking, past experiences, and what I mean by that is really focusing on your old relationships, what's worked, what's not worked, and wanting a new relationship to be just like that. Your new relationship isn't going to be just like that. It'll be different. Maybe your partner will share similar characteristics, similar behaviors, but they'll be a totally different person and they'll be more supportive. So although it's good to go into your past relationship and be reflective, it's also important not to take it as the face value truth. So worrying about if you're doing it right, are you doing the steps right, are you dating correctly? If you're worrying about this constantly, you're overthinking, you're in your head, and it's harder for people in front of you to take you in and understand you and be with you. Feeling stuck, not working on yourself, so constantly focusing on someone who's going to come into your life and make it better, as opposed to making your life better now by yourself, and then allowing someone else to step into your life, and together you make both your lives better, but you're not relying on each other. Not trusting the process. A lot of people give up after a few times on Hinge, social media, whatever you're trying to date on. It gets tiring. If you're going out dating in person on dates, asking people out at bars and whatnot, eventually it gets tiring, it gets long, and people start to lose hope. And that's the key thing you should not do. If you start losing hope, you're going to give up easily, and actually you might find your partner the day after if you kept going. So it's really important that you do keep faith. Giving up too early, again, people give up too early, not understanding the feeling of what you want. So again, people talk about acceptance, feeling happy, and sometimes they have it right in front of them. They have the perfect partner in front of them, and they're too in their heads. They're not in their bodies. They're not focused on how they're feeling on that day. That maybe they feel happy. Maybe they feel actually for the first time someone sees them and accepts them. But because they're so focused in their heads, they then ignore the person, or they start going away and coming up with 10,000 different flaws in that person they saw in front of them. 10,000 different flaws they saw in front of them, even though that person may have been 100% perfect for them. Trying too hard, again, being too needy. So you have to live your life. You have to live a happy life, a joyous life, and you can't spend 24 hours trying to find a partner, because then the question is really, what are you seeking in the partner that you don't have within yourself? Let me repeat that. What are you trying to find in the other partner, or the person you're dating, or the people you're trying to date? What are you trying to find in them that you don't have yourself? The other thing is not putting yourself first. Again, prioritizing everyone else in front of you, your dates, and not having any time for yourself. Comparing yourself again to past relationships, so that's again similar to past experiences, and feeling like you have no time, so feeling like you're getting older and you're in a hurry, and again this just puts you into a more needy state. You start panicking, you start showing up less inauthentically, and all of a sudden a lot more harder for you to find that ideal partner. And again, feeling lack in your life. This is where, again, feeling worthless, feeling like you need something, you need someone there all the time because you feel lonely. And yes, all these feelings are relevant, and yes, it's better to be in a relationship than be lonely, but equally you have to start addressing those feelings internally before you start seeking that externally. Again, the key to the method. So this is all about learning to feel accepted within yourself, whole, loved, all of these things. The moment you start to respect yourself more, start working on yourself, you'll start to see that your behavior changes, your confidence changes, your ability to show up more authentic changes. When all of these things start to change, more likely you're going to bring in the ideal partner. So the method I'm going to kind of go through is pretty simple, but again, really think about it. Spend time on this. You're not going to get this on the first go. You're going to probably get this after a few tries. So spend the next few months going through this, practicing it, really revisiting and asking yourself, what do you really want? And the more you start to do this, the more clearer the picture's going to get. So think of a scene. A scene in the future, not when you found your partner or when you started dating or the first time you have sexual intercourse, none of these things, but after 2, 4, 5 years down in the relationship, how are you as a person? How have you grown? Think of one scene. It doesn't have to be detailed, but there has to be an emotion attached to it. Maybe you're sitting there watching TV together and you feel like there's someone who understands you, respects you, loves you. Think of that. Think of that scene and picture it, visualize it. I want you to do this every morning, in the evening, whenever you can, and journal around it as well. Get detailed about what the scene is. Again, there doesn't have to be detail in the actual scene, but there has to be detail around what you're feeling and what you're doing at a basic level. So you could be just sitting there watching TV. Perfect, that's enough. Now picture yourself in that scene, and if you can't picture yourself, that's okay. Just imagine that feeling and focus on that feeling on a daily basis. And as you're doing this, as you're going on this journey, what I also want you to do is journal around the beliefs, the thought process, the behaviors that this person in the future, this person 4 or 5 years down the line, who's in a relationship, who's in a successful relationship with their ideal partner, what is this person doing? Journal it all the way to the T. Detail it around your thoughts, your behaviors, your beliefs, all of this. And as you start doing this, you'll start to develop a clearer picture of who that person is. And once you have that, I then want you to go forward and act it out. On a daily basis, go around and believe that you've achieved it. You've got that partner, you've cuddled with them, you've watched TV with them, and taken that personality of that future person and live your life accordingly. And it's going to take a while for you to really embrace it, to really take it in. But if the thoughts are congruent to who you want to be, if they're congruent to your values, all of these things, it'll be a lot more easier. And it's not going to happen all the time. Some days you're going to feel less confident. It's going to be fine. Take your time on this, but practice it. Reinforce those beliefs, the thoughts, all of those things on a daily basis, because the more repetition there is, more of a chance you have to really embody it and become that version of yourself. And as you become that version of yourself, you'll start to attract more dates, more people in your life who are more ideal for you. And if you want to further go into it, you can have affirmations. A small affirmation, for example, I am dating my ideal conscious partner. A simple one like that. But every time you say it, I want you to invoke that emotion of how you feel after you've achieved that relationship, or within that relationship. How would you feel? And as you start to feel it, the positive emotions, I want you to go about life and notice in your life where that emotion comes up elsewhere. Maybe you're playing a sport, maybe you're trying a new activity such as dancing, and that emotion pops up. Fantastic. Journal it down at the end of the day. And the more times you confirm this, so you confirm that emotion and you are aware of that emotion, and the more times you're able to recognize it, the easier it's going to be to become that person you want to be, and the easier it's going to be to turn yourself into that person you've always dreamed of. And also the main thing that you want is it's going to allow you to attract the partner of your dreams into your life. The last kind of few points I have, again, don't keep looking for a reason why you haven't got results. If you start doing that, you're going to start becoming needy, you're going to lose faith in the process, and start focusing on the journey, the process of becoming that version of yourself you want to be, who has the ideal partner. Because once you start to live day by day doing that and being that, it's going to be so much more easier, and you're going to become less needy and more authentic. Again, focus on what you want at the end. Some days it's going to be hard, you're going to have negative beliefs pop up. Fantastic, you can work on them, but focus on the end goal at the end of the day. And also realize that some days you're going to have the worst experiences ever, but that's okay, because those worst experiences, those bad experiences of rejection, whatever it is going to lead you to something greater. So focus on the end goal of what you want. But if anything happens, like you getting rejected, you feeling not good enough, that's fine. You're human. You're going to have those emotions. But start delving more deeper into understanding where they may arise from, if they're really potent, and carry on with their life. But the other thing I also want you to make sure you don't do is don't just try and go into your negative beliefs day by day, week by week. Don't do that. If it arises, feel into it, understand it, maybe journal around it, talk to someone about it, work with a coach or a therapist about it, but don't just constantly try and heal yourself or fix yourself. That's not what you want, because if you start doing that, you're not going to really step forward and find your ideal partner. You're going to be stuck in limbo. You don't want that. Instead, focus on a vision or goal. It could be small, it can be big, in terms of your dating life, your relationships, and strive towards that. So this is the mirror principle at its core. Hopefully it's helped you. Hopefully it's helped you delve deep into understanding what may be holding you back in your dating and relationship life and how you can apply the mirror principle. It's just a principle, and like I said, life is complex, humans are complex, but it is simple to grasp once you really understand it. And if you do apply it on a 24/7 basis, week by week, month by month, you will see a change. But you have to constantly take action, build more awareness, and keep striving forward. And if you're someone who wants to be more conscious, more self-aware, all of these things, this process will help. The mirror principle will help. If you've enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you in the next video. And if you want to work with me, check out the details there. And I'll be seeing you one-to-one, working with you. I'm giving out the Dating on Demand free session where I will be essentially delving deep into what's stopping you, what's holding you back, and help you identify the path and the steps that you need to find your conscious partner, your ideal partner, all of that. So if you're interested, click on that link. It's also down below. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video if you think someone else will be interested. Thank you.